You know, you can't understand what a step forward fourth generation radiopodular jail planning was till you understand what sheriffs had to put up with before. You know, you would have this box, and then you would have and you'd have a jailer come in from one end, and it was all blind. If the jailer didn't walk up and down the corridor, often within close proximity to the grated bar fronts of the cells, he or she didn't know what was going on inside their own jail, if prisoners were being assaulted, if other things were happening. So that was sort of first generation. Then what happened is they started doing a day room so that you came in here, and this is during the day, and prisoners came out of their cells and they were in this common meeting room that was equipped with tables or a TV or what have you. And that was sort of second generation, all right? The third generation actually created a mezzanine where you would have cells, maybe around a central point, and you had a control station here, and that control station really had much better visibility into all the cell fronts than was previously the case. And this would be what we would call the third generation, and it would have a mezzanine. And the mezzanine had stairs, and so you had cells stacked up. And what it did is it brought a greater number of cell fronts within closer visual proximity to the control officer. And this was a big step forward in jail design or prison design throughout the United States. All right. Now, for a state prison, it may have worked because you have a much larger number of prisoners where you're divided into discrete numbers. Let's say, and this might be 60 to 80 prisoners in this day room. And that worked. The problem is for county jails in particular, if you had a 100 bed or a 60 bed or a 200 bed, smaller numbers, how do you divide this up into discrete groups that can be classified more easily into smaller groups of 8 or 12 or 16 or 24, all right? Because in a smaller jail, you still have the same classification challenges you have in a larger facility, you just have a smaller number. Okay, so what happened is we started looking, and this would have been in the early to mid 80s, okay? We started looking at the idea of that same control station, but this time you have a sally port, a corridor around the control station, which is enclosed in glass. You have a series of pods surrounding that control station that Mr. or Miss Jailer can still look into, just like they could before, but this time, this might be 8, this is 16, 16, 12, 8, 8, 12, and those pods can be tailored to reflect the classification that's found within the crime or sentencing pattern that particular jurisdiction has experienced. And you can research this, which is what we do, as the back half of what's called needs assessment. In other words, it's not just to determine the number of prisoners, male and female, that a jurisdiction needs, but you're also trying to break those groups down into discrete groups: bad check riders, lower security, axe murderers, higher security, cop killers, God forbid, and so forth. And you begin to determine those patterns and let all of these pods reflect those sentencing patterns, so that what you're arming the sheriff and his jail staff with is the most powerful jail management tool of all: the opportunity to use a good proactive classification system for the operation, the management of their inmate program. And that's what the fourth generation jail design did. And we were there in the mid-80s. This was a brand new approach, and we have applied it successfully in dozens and dozens of jurisdictions throughout the United States. And it is a wonderfully efficient, safe, and secure approach to designing jails.